Welcome to another edition of the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast. This time around, my guest is the mayor of Grand Forks, North Dakota. His name is Brandon Bochenski. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for doing this.
Happy to be here. It's been, 3 years since we've been on the radio, maybe even longer. So it's nice that we can be on a podcast together. We'll see if we still have the mojo.
So we got the magic, see if it's still there.
Yeah, I like it.
So as usual with me, I'm going to take you probably to Chicago to get to Amaretto. So it'll be kind of this wide-ranging topic of things, some probably a little more serious and sinister than others. But generally, I want to get your thoughts on quite a few things. We're taping this podcast on the heels of the news that Charlie Kirk, who was a Republican pundit, I think if I want to put it lightly, who his shtick, if you will, was traveling to college campuses to answer questions, challenge students, challenge ideas. His interest was in conversation. Now, that, of course, would come from the Republican side. The left might say, he's a fascist and he's a... Regardless of what you think of the guy, he didn't deserve to be shot dead while doing an appearance at a Utah college. Which brings to light, and the question that I have for you is, when you see stuff like this as a guy who spends a lot of time in the public. Yeah. I know of at least two night events you had this week. There's a vigil for Charlie Kirk tonight. Again, this is being recorded on Friday, September 12th. So, I mean, you're out constantly. I'm sure, not everybody agrees with you. Do you ever get concerned for your safety? Again, you take care of yourself. You're a fit dude. I don't mean not knucks to knucks, but somebody sitting on a roof someplace.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about, actually, first of all, it is pretty sad to see a father or two pass away. My wife was a follower of his wife. Certainly, he moved the needle a lot for young people, gave them the space to be conservative in environments where it's not as allowed as it used to be, which is sad. So we're going to lose a real champion on the right, no doubt. I did think a lot. I thought a lot about what was going on when that Fufang process happened, because people get sort of radicalized by what someone's saying online, and then they feel justified in doing something. Clearly, that kid that shot him, 22 years old, felt justified in killing him. But there's nothing you could do. He couldn't have saved himself from that. I can be as fit and go to the gym every day, and you get shot in the neck. I'm sure it was probably trying to hit him in the head, and 200 yards away, it dropped and hit him in the neck. Pretty horrible. I mean, I think it does you do have to kind of think of your mortality a little bit when you see things like that. But, I'm put my faith in the good Lord. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. But you're going to do as best you can to charge forward, even knowing that there could be things. So I don't want to obviously make it about me in any long stretch of the imagination, but it does make you think a little bit. Well,
Senators Kramer and Hoeven are both quoted today as saying, we got our heads on a swivel. We are paying closer attention to what's going on. They do lay some of this at the feet of social media and what social media gives a voice to absolutely everybody. I'm old enough to remember a time when there wasn't social media, and it was okay that some people's voices weren't heard. It was just okay. The adults had a tendency to run things, and that was fine.
Yeah.
Process that however you like. But at the end of the day, what happens and with this kid, he took the time to write messages on bullets, for crying out loud.
I think one of them said, "Catch this, fascist." So it's pretty scary. But then you kind of get to this point where you think, okay, should this make you more fervent that what you're doing is right? Because the devil, evil, whoever's out to get you, so you've got to be stronger. You got to push forward. Or does this have good people not want to get involved because now you risk life and limb to try to get your voice and your opinion out there? So.
Well, you live through local issues like Fufang, which was contentious. I don't know that it ever needed to be. We don't need to relive that whole thing. That feels like years ago already. But there were times when I'm sure you opened your email and you're like, my goodness, I'm trying to bring a corn milling plant to Grand Forks, North Dakota. I don't need all of this in my life.
Yeah. Well, there was, people that were openly threatening me, like in person, and people that, you're like physically, you wouldn't scare me whatsoever, but who knows what you're going to do, or if I'm not looking, or hit me with a car or something. I don't think I dwelled on anything like that too long, but certainly with, just look at our neighboring state. The two lawmakers one was nearly killed. The other one was killed, her and her husband. You think of Steve Scalise, the president had two attempts on his life. People need to settle that F down, for lack of a better way to say it.
Well, and I think that's what really comes to the heart of it is when you talk about, who wants to serve when we're dealing with these sorts of real issues in our communities. And I think most of us believe, and the statistics would pour this out, by the way, Grand Forks is a uber safe space to be. Our law enforcement they do a wonderful job of keeping us safe. I'm sure if there was some reason to keep you safer, they would do what they needed to do that. But at the same time, it's like if you're considering, and we see this every time when elections come, so-and-so incumbent runs for another term of city council, and he runs unopposed.
Yeah.
Well, he does so because, man, I want to show up at a library board meeting, and because I think this book should be there and you don't, all of a sudden I'm in fisticuffs in the parking lot. Just seems like that's crazy.
If you're someone that's in business or has a job, then you could have people trying to boycott you and try to take away your livelihood. Yeah. I mean, it is quite scary. We come from the era before, and we're not quite the same age, but close enough.
Right.
When people said stupid stuff in the public square, they got smacked in the mouth.
That's right.
Now they find other people that believe the same thing, and they all think that they're right because all the algorithms line up. But I try to keep my kids away from that stuff as much as you can. But I'm a victim to looking through some of that crap sometimes too, and I don't know. There's no easy answers today, and this political violence isn't anything new. We've had presidents shot and killed. It just seems like it's really heating up recently, and hopefully the mood will change when things like this happen. But it remains to be seen. It
either goes one of two ways, right? It calms down, or we start to see some copycat things, which just makes everybody more uneasy.
To that front, we did have communication with our police chief. There's a couple public events coming up, not ones that I'm or any public officials will be at, but they're going to have increased security and get people up higher places. It's a good best practice is to start doing some of that and some good training. So he was proactive, got out in front and said, hey, let's treat these next few events as if something could happen. So we are ready if there's something. Like Charlie Kirk was going to come to the University of North Dakota.
Yeah.
If this shooter, it sounds like he was from the area, but if he really wanted him and didn't get a shot at him there, he could have been somewhere in Grand Forks. I mean, we need to be ready for something like that, unfortunately, and our police chief is taking the bull by the horns, and he's going to do that.
Just absolutely crazy. So, I mean, we'll continue to be diligent. We'll, of course, keep our eyes and ears and whatever else open. But again, Grand Forks and North Dakota are stupidly safe places. I think maybe the difference in Grand Forks, North Dakota, too, that it's probably pretty well known is that if somebody took a shot at a public official, they probably are going to have 4 or 5 shots back at them because that's kind of how we seem to roll around here. So just food for thought.
Probably wildly inaccurate. Well, shots wise, not your statement.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, just keep that in mind if you mean. And this mayor in particular never shies away from a robust debate. We'll sit down and visit with you about absolutely anything. We'll hear you out. We'll counterpoint with you till you're blue in the face. You don't need to harm anybody. So that's, we'll put an end to that, put a bow on that. Yeah. Again, taking you to Chicago to get to Amaretto. Ben Strinden wins the Ironman again. So I was looking at past Ironman winners at the University of North Dakota men's hockey team.
My name's not on there.
I didn't find your name there. What happened?
We had a backup goalie named Ryan Sophie that must have weighed 120 pounds soaking wet, and he could run for days. So back when we were doing it, the sprints and the runs, and there was a bunch of different lifting things that had some weight, but everything was kind of tied to running. So he would win by like a country mile. So he took it at least 2 of the 3 years. I was always better on the ice, so I focused on scoring goals, not running stairs really quickly.
What is it? Just out of morbid curiosity, what is the expectation coming into camp? Like you're in shape, ready to go? I mean, obviously you don't want to be 22 pounds overweight, but
yeah, I was going to name some teammates. I'll leave their names out of it. There's some that tried to come into camp to get into shape under Dean Blaze. That was not a good decision. You needed to be in shape when you got there. If you were out of shape when you got there, he was no stranger to just pulling your scholarship and saying, go find somewhere else to go. So your expectation is to be in excellent shape when you get there. And they're using the Ironman to test you. They're not using that to get you into shape. They're testing what's your work ethic, what's your focus, how into this are you, and what have you been doing all summer.
Yeah, and in this day and age when you have more transfers than ever, and this might have been quite the eye-opener for some of these guys that are first time at the University of North Dakota, whether you're a freshman or transferred in as a junior.
Especially the Canadians. They might have been coming from juniors, didn't do much training. Like maybe they did more cycling than running. They don't even have running shoes, They got to chirp all the Canadians, but they got thrown into the fire. The guy's like, I'm one of the best junior hockey players. And Dean Blaze, look, I don't care. Run around that track, sprint from here to here as quick as you can. And he'd just stare you down with those transition lenses in his goal too. I didn't realize he was like my age when he first did the job, but he looked like he hasn't aged. He's always looked like he's 65 from the time he was 35 to 85. He's looked like he's 65 the whole time. I
can tell you, Dean Blaze he and I have a mutual friend.
Okay.
And Blaze had a nice run, well, as you well know, had a nice run there, had a nice run of players with you and Mr. Parisi and others, right? And then with that came a fair amount of success, as you well know. So you guys played the University of Minnesota one night, and it was during hunting season. And our mutual friend has 160 acres of hunting land in Devil's Lake. So right after, like soon after the game, after he did the, good job, boys, and all the things, he hops in a car and he drives to Devil's Lake. And if you've never seen Dean Blaze let his hair down, now when he's in a place where he's either less known or he's not going to be, back then in the early 2000s-ish, taking a guy's photo and putting it all over the place wasn't a thing yet. Yeah. And so he played hard, like dude's motor never turned off, and he'd get up in the morning and go deer hunting, and I kid you not, 30 feet in the air on a 2x6 piece of wood, stood between two trees and tried to hunt deer with a rifle with his son Ben, and he had a few other buddies that would come over there. But my goodness, if you didn't know that about Coach Blaze, and then you turn the camera on and he's right back to, we got to get the buck down low, and then we got, he's right back into coach mode. But he's a beauty, as kids say.
That was the mantra in the 80s and 90s. It was a true work hard, play hard mentality. And I think that brought the best out of a lot of guys. Some guys couldn't cut it, but there's a lot of International Falls stories of good old Dino getting out and having a good time. So I've got to see him a couple times in those situations. He's been a little more cautious now. He knows when the cameras are on, but he was. I think I was scared of him, pretty scared of him back in the day when I was playing for him. So I'm sure when he let his hair down, he'd still have he'd command quite the amount of respect.
Oh my God! I saw him basically fillet a fish with a stick one time. I mean, again, back to the International Falls stories. I mean, that's what he did for tips and things back in the day when he was just a kid. He's probably filleted 1 million fishes in his life, and he was able to do that day, which I thought was. It was amazing to watch. What do you know about Dane Jackson?
I don't know a ton. I mean, I got to know Dane when I came back. So he played before I got here and coached after I had left. So I know he's a hardworking guy. He's really respected by the players because he's kind of been there, had a long career, really been in their corner. A lot of kind of what Dave Haxtell brought to the table is, was an assistant for a long time, really players coach type of character. So I think it'll be a really great start. He's got some guys really excited. So at the start of the season, when you have a new coach and sort of the chips are going to fall in new places, so guys that maybe didn't play a lot are going to have an opportunity. So everyone kind of their level goes up, certainly at the beginning. So I'd expect the team to come out hot, and hopefully he can keep it going. But I think he's certainly capable, and it was his turn.
I know you're busy with other things. Would you ever coach hockey at that level?
I don't know. I go back and forth. I love the game. I had to get away from it. They say you kind of got to kill the player before you can be a coach, because then you still think you're like in the game. So I've gone through that process. Now I'm coaching my kids to get to that level and coach. I think it would be I think I could bring something to it. I was really thought the game well, but I can't see it in my cards to getting back into a career into sports after spending 30 years doing it. So
a tough sell at home too.
Yeah, I don't know that my wife signed up for me to retire to go back traveling and scouting and doing all that stuff, but who knows?
How do you like coaching your kids? Is that hard? It's got to be hard.
Well, I'm kind of the old school dad where if I'm going to coach my kid, I'm going to be harder on him than anybody else in the team. So kids like, Charlie will come up to me, Dad, why are you always yelling at me and making me do extra? I said, well, you got to prove it. If you're going to get the ice time, you got to prove it. What I like is I switch off. I got a 13-year-old and 11-year-old, so every year I'll switch which kid I coach. But in my job and with my time commitment and other things, it just gives me a chance to hang out with them. We're driving to games, hanging out at tournaments between games. You just get to know them and try to have some manly sort of camaraderie and that type of thing, because you just time flies. I would
never pin you to something that will be on the internet forever, so I'm not going to pin you to that. But do you think that your kids are they doing it because do you think they love the game? Do you think that if it ends when it ends, it just ends when it ends? If they don't get to dad's level, that's okay. They're still just having fun. That's
a hard thing in my household because all my kids, we don't hold them to that like standard. You're not like, you don't need to play in the NHL, but they know that their dad did. Like my daughter wants to be perfect on everything that she does. In volleyball, she's a pilot, trained to be a pilot. She wants to be perfect at that. She wants to be the best at everything. And I tell her, you can't. You just do the best you can, be the best you can be. On my boys, when it comes to hockey directly, I think they had a love for it because they were around the game. I don't think my older son, he's a goalie, so maybe he's turned off now because he's sick of getting hit with the head with pucks. But
goalies,
it's not a career. I don't think it's going to be a career by any means for either of them. So I just tell them to have fun. We're, even my experience, and it's not that I really want that for my kids. It was hard. Like my body got destroyed, the pressure that you were constantly under. It seems glamorous because I had some success, but it's not maybe something. I think my kids can have a better life and less sort of a burden to carry their whole lives than trying to do what I did. So
it's funny when you talk to former players, and I mean, we have one that's a mayor, and then of course they're in the city, right? I mean, yeah. I saw the Lamoureux twins last night again. I mean, they played Olympic hockey and all the things, so they're essentially professional female hockey players. What I always think is interesting is that at some level, yeah, it was a great experience, but now I want to move on to other. I want to do other things. It was a moment in my life. It was a great moment in my life. It was something that I'm sure you dreamed about as a kid, and you strive for, and you worked hard for, and you achieved it. And so now, though, I want to do other stuff, which leads me to my next question. Maybe on the heels, maybe tied in a little bit to the Charlie Kirk stuff or whatever. You think you'll be mayor much longer?
I don't know. I got asked this the other day. I think unless something like drastically changes, or I feel like there's really something I need to stay and get done, I've really lined up. It's executing the things that I've gotten going that I'm excited about. The air service, the sports complex, bringing more business into town, kind of reforming the city budget and the city departments. So I feel like I've got those things really in good shape so I can leave it in a good place. So I can't see me running again unless something changed in the next 3 years. But, with that, I'm not going to, walk into the end. I'm going to sprint to the end and work hard the whole time. So I can't see me doing mayor or likely anything in the public service going into the future. I want to spend more time with my kids and my wife and travel and do. It's kind of like I switched from hockey right into another career that was kind of all encompassing. So.
Well, I think that's your personality, though. Would you agree? Yeah. You're not a guy that just I'll be mayor Monday afternoons and Thursday evenings. I'm kind of, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and that probably rubs people the wrong way at times, but that's just how I've done everything. And maybe I'm talking myself out of something and it'll change over the next period. But I've had some good conversations with my wife. She's probably on the fence as well. But I can't see another term right now in my future.
Yeah, well, that's would you have considered state representative or something more in the political career? Did Fufang or anything sour you on the note that maybe I want to pursue this a little bit? You seem to really like politics at one point.
Yeah, I don't know that I like politics as much as I like being back in that team atmosphere that I get to feel working with some of the city staff, finance department, people that really care about what you can do at the local government level. When you can be around people that you're on the same team, you're driving things forward, that's what really feels good. As far as the politics itself, nothing's really soured me. I mean, I got into exactly what I would expect to have gotten into. I mean, everything was going to be controversial. That if you get 51% of the people to agree on something, great. So I've been more than happy with the way things have gone. I didn't get into it thinking I was going to be doing. I mean, people that know me from my past are like, really, you're going to be the mayor and do this and that? Because you picture like the Simpsons, the old mayor from the Simpsons. You don't picture like someone younger, relatively younger, that has a lot of other stuff going on to do this type of job.
I mean, there was a specific incident in your neighborhood that kind of pushed you in this direction, right? I don't think mayor was ever really on your radar until you thought, hey, wait a minute, I gotta do something about this.
It opened my eyes to see, that you should be getting involved in these types of things if you want to make a difference. And, I always tell the story. My wife said, "You going to keep complaining or go out and do something about it?" I don't think she expected what I did, but so I think I like the leadership and making things happen for your community more than I like the politics side of it. So if there's other areas that I can, get involved with, church or, coaching kids or mentoring kids, I think I could still fill that sort of thing that I like, that hook that drives me. But But I don't know. I'm self, psychiatry 101 myself right now. So who knows? That's probably not a good way to do it.
Well, like you said, I mean, you'll get to the point when you feel like I have to make a decision on this, and you'll make a decision, right? But if somebody were backing you into a corner and say, I need to know today, I think you'd likely say, from what I'm picking up, if I'm picking up what you're putting down, I'm likely gonna call a timeout, and I'll be
what's next.
I'll be over there and
reinvent myself one more time.
Yes, I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Yeah. Okay, so a couple of notes on city business. Agristo. Wonderful reception in Town Square. Yeah. These guys seem like they're going to fit in real nice around here. Well done, sir. I mean, $450 million, the jobs that are going to be coming to our community. If you're in agriculture, you have to be given a big old fist pump. Pushing it across the finish line. Is it a done deal, or is it about as done? I mean, normally when you get the CEO and the higher ups to town, it's about as done as it would be.
Well, they actually, I can announce here, they closed on the land actually today. So they spent $10 million or more. I mean, I don't even know what the number is. They so they're in the 8 figures now. So they're coming. I think as they looked at the initial, cost, it's probably going to be closer to $500 million by the time they get everything done on this plant. But it took literally everything that we had, the state had, to get that project here. I hope people realize in the local farm, everyone came together and had to absolutely be on the same page to get it done, from Senator Hoeven, who was a man of his word that said he'd help out to get the next thing in here, and he'd worked with BNSF to try to help close that gap. The state came in, the city did everything we could, but really we built a good personal relationship. They wanted to be in Grand Forks, so they started looking at reasons to say this is the answer, not Stevens Point, Wisconsin. So they're kind of, they got this European kind of quirky, goofy, like Google feel almost, where it makes me a little uncomfortable at times because I'm not in those like goofy marketing potato-holic type of thing. Hopefully they're not watching this because it's fine. You guys do your thing. But I'm more of a, nuts and bolts, let's get this thing done. But they, with that, they're doing the right things. They're reaching out to the community. They're getting, people to know who they are. The CEO and the founder, I mean, the guy came here from Belgium to Grand Forks and was crying about how excited he was about being here. You can't fake that.
No, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. I was curious, what do you do with all these jerseys and stuff you get? I saw the Agristo hockey jersey that you put on. I mean, getting back to the quirky kind of stuff, but what do you do with that stuff? Do you hang it in your closet someplace, or you frame it up?
Okay, that one will probably. I think we're going to frame that one. That was the debate because I didn't know what to do. I kind of wanted two because then I can wear one when I play hockey, that pickup hockey. But I don't want it to get pucks and stick marks on it or ripped or blood on it. So I wanted, but I'm going to keep this one. I think I'm going to frame it and put it in City Hall, like kind of in one of those back hallways. Not like for me, it says Grand Forks in the back, and I think it's a big deal. And just to close on that, I think it's a true testament. I think if anyone wants to look back and see that, kind of going through a hard time with the corn mill, but staying the course, showing that you're going to do things the right way, and that led us to this project coming here. If they would have seen, a different response out of the city from that project, this is a company that we asked them because they were buying the land. We said, well, do you know about this company? They said, Fufang, yeah, we buy products from them all the time. Of course we know who they are. They're a large player. So they had a good relationship. They were able to purchase the land from them, but had we not done things the right way and pushed through it, we wouldn't have had something good at the end. So I think it's a good lesson for people that when you're going through something hard, there's going to be a brighter day on the other side, and we got to see that firsthand.
Fufang must have been happy, too, that there was a buyer for that land.
Well, and in its entirety, yeah. They were looking at piecing it out. So I think it was dead to them. They couldn't do anything with it. So I think it was a win for both sides. Agristo could have probably put the screws to them and really, tightened it up, but the state at some point would have probably had to force them to sell anyway. So I think it was a win for both.
And it seems like everybody's okay with Agristo coming to Grand Forks, North Dakota.
I don't think everybody is, but it's, you're going to have
51%.
You're going to have 6 people that are angry about everything. I always tell the joke here, we cured cancer, but then people were mad that you put the cancer doctors out of business. You can't win. So there's a few people that even Belgium's not good enough. We should have had an American company, like as if we didn't prefer an American company. There wasn't one that was knocking down the door to spend $500 million. So
yeah. That's the other part that I think most people miss. And I want to ask you about tax incentives here in just a second. Getting these deals put together, I don't think Grand Forks realizes how fortunate they are to have Fufeng come along and Agristo to come along so quickly afterwards. I remember having you on the radio on a Saturday morning to talk about Fufeng because the news was breaking and you had agreed to come out and talk about it. But what a unique opportunity that was. Again, we don't have to relive why that didn't happen. But then so quickly, here comes Agristo. And it was like, I mean, how rare is that?
Well, and we could have easily said, we've just been through a lot. We need some time out here, maybe check in with us. But I had been working with Agristo and some of the farmers prior, like even at the early days of Fufeng. So I knew that there was a potential, but it was a 1 in 100 at that point. So, and really we could have easily had both. It would have, there was other areas where that potato plant could have gone. But we are very fortunate, and that's a testament to our farmers, our farmland, our work ethic. We got less than 3% unemployment. People want to work here. They want to work hard. It was very fitting to how they did things in Belgium. So are we fortunate? Yes, but we set ourselves up so we were ready for success. You got to set yourself up for success, and we did.
Why do you think there's people in our community that fight development so hard?
I think that they are convinced that the yesteryear, the 50s and 60s, the way things were, we all remember the past as being so glorious. It wasn't as clean and great as we think it was. So I think there's just this idea that any more traffic, anything new is bad. We got enough bad things. We don't like, the one potato plant that's here, so another one's going to be even worse. I think it goes back much further. I always go back to the old Teddy Roosevelt. There's a twisted, pride and cynicism where it's an American pastime. It's better than baseball. We like to complain and be critical of things and point out where someone's failing or this is going to be bad. We always look to the negative. I hear it all the time. Grand Forks is horrible. I hate this place. I've lived here my whole life. Well, then the next question, well, why don't you move? No, I'm never moving. And you're like, and this is the other quote. I don't know if I told you this one, but Chief Lorenz used to say this all the time. He said, he said this in the fire service, but the two things people hate is the way things are and change. And it's like, well, what else is left? They hate both. So you got to try to thread that needle. I don't think it's just our town. It's just towns of our size that are on that cusp where we're big enough to draw big things in, but we're small enough where kind of everybody knows each other and we feel like we have that voice, which is a good thing. But I think we're moving past it. I think we really are.
You've got a little development in your, in your life. You've done some things with buildings of homes and different projects. With that in mind, when people see all these apartments going up, and I'll tie it into a tax incentive question here in a little bit, they think there's too many apartments. They think that there's not. What do we need them all for? We need to have more affordable housing. The issue I've always had with affordable housing to you, Mr. Mayor, is likely a lot different than what affordable housing is to me. Yeah. And so how do you, again, back to threading the needle, how do you do that? If you put 7 blocks of $300,000 houses, well, who the hell can afford that, right? When the developer would tell you, well, I'm losing money on a $300,000 house, so build your own. How do you balance that fervor sometimes from the public that says, well, we have too many apartments, we need more single-family homes, to, we are going to give this business a tax incentive to build apartments here. No, there isn't too many. And then sometimes it feels like that's a little unjust to be criticized for that.
Yeah, there's a lot obviously to talk about. This is, it's kind of been my specialty to some extent, and I've figured out how to define affordable housing broad enough. It's I want what I want, but I want to pay less for it than I have to pay for it. That's the only way you can say, because it might be someone
Makes sense.
I want an affordable $800,000 house, or I want an affordable $200,000 house. That's different in your own definition. My viewpoint has shifted a little bit. I really would love to see people in single family homes, building equity. I think that's the greatest way to grow wealth in America. And I really want to push that and continue, towards that path. We also have a large population with the air base, with the university, and now with high interest rates and high housing costs that it's not affordable, or they aren't going to make that choice to be paying that much money in interest and maintenance and amortization, all the things that you'd have to do if you own something. So they're more willing to rent. And if we have more apartment complexes too at a fair rate, you have more people that aren't going to put pressure on housing to even increase the cost, because we're not building them fast enough to grow with our population growth. So if we don't have apartments coming, it's only going to exacerbate what's happening in housing. So we have to continue to grow. When we have these businesses, and I don't want the Fargo crazy growth where we can't keep up on infrastructure or public safety, but we need to have low digit growth so that the property tax burden isn't so bad on who's currently here. And we have enough growth where businesses grow and they can pay their employees. That's how you become a prosperous community. So when you have a period where you have high inflation like we've got now, so housing costs have come up, and then the Fed has tried to fix that now by raising the Fed's the interest rate. It's a double whammy on trying to make things affordable. So you really can't build, something truly affordable tract type housing that we had in the past, and that turns into apartments too. We're down to less than 2% vacancy rate, which is, a historical norm is 6 to 10%. So what does that allow? It allows anyone that owns an apartment to be to have very high rules on who can even rent it. So that eliminates a lot of people if they low income, bad credit, some sort of history. But it also allows them to put the screws on people and they're paying a ton of money for rent and then they don't have disposable income to spend on other stuff. We could talk about this for an hour and I'd love to, but that's why we try to grow it, a little bit less. I would call it organically, but with a little bit of an incentive boost.
So the Spohr family, when young Margaret went to college at NDSU, I know, poor parenting. She will be done now in December with her undergrad, and then we're going to apply to law school and do all kinds of things. But when she moved out of the house, my wife and I made the decision. Our house was at the point where we either had to make a huge investment in it, everything needed to be done, flooring and all the things, or we could sell it and then look for like a town home or something smaller, right? Well, let's just say our house sold much faster than we ever anticipated. Mm-hmm. It's a long way of telling you that we're renting. Yeah. So here's what I can tell you about renting. So 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,950 square feet. Okay. It fancies itself a bit of a town home. So it's not like your classic apartment. $2,450 a month in rent.
Yeah.
Okay. So my wife says, well, if Maggie's going to come home and go to law school at UND, let's just say, which would likely be an option for her, we can't do it here because we'll be sitting on top of each other and we'll drive each other nuts. So let's start looking for a house. We start looking for a house. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house to rent. The cheapest one we found is $3,400 a month. Yeah. Now,
that's just so people know. You're paying $30,000 a year. That is over $40,000 a year to rent that house. Yes. Okay.
So beyond looking at your boy JT and saying dumbass repeatedly, I can't disagree with a lot of that. I can tell you, though, back to the mayor's point, we're very, very fortunate in that, and again, you can't say this will sound like a pompous ass, so I'll just say it. We can handle the $2,450 a month. That's not the thing. But the rational side of my brain continually says, what are you doing? Yeah. I mean, I might as well drive down South Washington with $2,450 a month and let the $100 bills blow out of my hand, and I'm getting the same thing out of it. Yeah. I suppose the difference would be that I have shelter. But then it's how long do you want to do this? Now, if I could find a townhome, we would move into said townhome. But there's not a lot of those laying around either. Yeah. So when people start to think about, is the place I'm living in worth $2,450 a month? I would argue no. Hell no, it's not. Of course it's not. That's ridiculous. It's absurd. All the things that you've said while listening to this podcast are absolutely true. Yeah. The nice thing is if the fridge quits, somebody else got to pay for it. But beyond that, there's really doesn't make a lot of sense. So to say that we don't need more apartments, and we took a little drive last night when we left the Fashion Affair. Yeah. And we went over the Columbia Overpass because, of course, there was a train.
I just see Jarrod JT at all the fashion events.
There we were.
I know.
He and I were all, hey, how's it going?
We're like, you're here?
Yeah. You're here. Oh, you're here. So we're driving, and all of those new field house apartments are full. Yeah. The kids are everywhere. UND is experiencing record enrollment.
Which is phenomenal for our community.
Great.
It is amazing. Yeah.
A beautiful campus. My God, what a beautiful campus. But it was not lost on us that everywhere you go, there's a body in the building. Yeah. So when we talk about tax incentives then for companies that want to build in our community, you asked for, I think, a 20-year tax incentive up front. for the Northridge project that I believe is going to be around Sanford out here on the southern end of town.
Yeah.
And that's got to get approval from the school district, and that's got to get that's a great idea, by the way. And that's got to get approval from the park district and whoever else. And somebody says no, so it gets moved down to something that you guys can just push through yourself in a 5-year tax incentive.
It worked out great for us. They originally wanted to, well, they probably would have taken longer. They wanted a 15-year, 80%, and the builder of it was going to be the owner. What they ended up having to do is kind of go beg, borrow, and steal to get more equity in, which means it's far less profitable for them. They won't be able to do as many projects, but they managed to come in. It actually worked out great for us. We're going to get not quite. They're going to have to scale back the project a little bit to make it work, but it'll be a 5-year TIF. They'll be at the full, rate in year 6, which that project, unless we have a drastic drop in prices of materials or interest rates, they weren't going to build that thing within 5 years. So we're going to get tax dollars in sooner than we ever would before, and we get a little bit more ease on the housing thing. There's going to be one coming up right after that's going to be an affordable one, kind of by Furniture Row. We're going to have to look at that one too. I think we're making these investments. We don't pay anything. We just wait to collect more money later. Right. It doesn't cost us anything extra. We don't have to hire more cops or more fire. The streets are already going by there, so there's no more cost. So it makes sense to bird in the hand rather than two in the bush that might happen 10 years from now. Let's get them built now. Let's get those construction dollars flowing. So I think it worked out good in the end. People will criticize and say this, that, or the other, but we ended up getting a pretty good deal as a city and a project that's going to go forward. So I'm pretty pleased with it. Yeah,
and this just handed to me. Construction costs aren't going down. Yeah. So if you don't build them now, they're only going to exponentially go up.
That was just handed to you.
That was just
news.
Breaking news. Just handed to me that that's part of what the discussion is and why city leaders have to move as quick as you do.
Yeah. But the argument on the other side is so easy. It's so simplistic that you say, "Oh, I have to pay their taxes then," and then you're not paying their tax. If you're paying their taxes, then you're already paying their taxes now. So what's the difference?
Right.
Let's have something. If they're going to build something, let's have them build the most expensive thing they will possibly build. So they're paying more taxes later to offset everybody else's. Like, I want to see. My philosophy has always been 10, 20 years out. I'm not looking at my next election cycle, which I think way too many people are at the federal level. That's why nothing smart gets done for the long term. You'd think 2 years or 4 years in advance, and then everything turns to bloody hell. But long term, these will definitely be beneficial for our community. But the easy answer is, well, then I have to pay for them in the meantime. And it's so simplistic because there's no increased cost. You're not increasing the cost, so you're not paying for anything. Anyway, we can go on that for days.
Well, it's of note though, and it's worthy of, I think, a mention only because you're right. That's what people say all the time is, well, then I got to carry the freight. What freight? There's no freight to carry.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about, right?
But we can all say free market this, free market that, but our monetary and fiscal policy during COVID so screwed up everything that we're trying to play catch up. And I think it's bad that you have to have small government try to fix what big government did, but that's where we're at. The free market has changed drastically by them pumping money into it, creating massive inflation, now high interest rates to peel that down. So we're dealing with that on such a micro level that we're trying to make solutions that are far beyond our pay grade or our government level. But it's the scenario that we're in, and we can do nothing, and it's only going to get worse. So we can try to do something to help, even things out a little bit.
We're going to have quite the row there along 42nd. The city's largest asset in the Alair Center is there already. The Altru Sports Complex has broken ground, and I'm telling you, the people at the Children's Museum, once they get this thing built, they should just fundraise for everything. They're absolutely everywhere. And garnering big dollars out of people in this community, like, frankly, nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
they're turning dollars on golf tournaments and things that make my head spin. With that in mind, though, that Altru Sports Complex, it's coming along, and it's coming along already, and it's a big project.
Yeah, we are absolutely punching out of our weight class. I like to say that. I guess I tend to be kind of a fighter, but for a town of 60, 70,000 people, we have a lot of amenities. We have a pretty good value proposition for someone. I mean, the Alair Center, think of the concerts and the activities and the events that we get there. No town of 60,000 people get that in the whole country.
Right.
Zach Bryan didn't go to a single city smaller than Grand Forks its entire tour, and he went here twice.
Right.
I mean, back-to-back nights and got sold out. So you add the Altru Sports Complex. I think that's going to help drive people from, even more people from the region in here. The Children's Museum, we got to pump them up. They'll take hundreds, 20s, They'll take change. They'll take Kohl's cash if you got that. They'll take whatever monetary thing you'll give them. Bitcoin, Ethereum, I don't know if anything I haven't thought of right now. Barrels of oil, copper. They'll take whatever it takes. They're doing a great job. I think, and back to that 42nd, that was envisioned there. When the Alerus Center was first there, they had a line of museums. They even had like a crosswalk, elevated one going over. It didn't really come to fruition because it was never quite perfect. So we can't let really darn good get in the way, let perfect get in the way of really darn good. And now I don't know if you've been tracking the Ray Richards, the Top Golf thing, which I think was a great project to begin with. I know the neighbors, were upset with the location and the way they've got it shifted now, where that Top Golf is going to be right on 42nd, kind of in and around where that underpass is going to be. And then the underpass, so that whole row, I mean, if you're a college student and you wanted to come here before, you drive down 42nd, you drive down campus, like you might just say yes and sign on the dotted line. You're not going anywhere else.
It's again, we were on the campus last night at night, which that's been the first time in a while, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's bustling, and there's kids everywhere. It's fantastic, and so here was the argument the other day, right? Well, it's going to be a par 33 golf course. So I looked at the guy and I said, "But you're golfing, right?" Well, yeah.
You're still going to golf 52 anyway.
You're still going to shoot 59. So what the hell? It could be 36, 33, whatever, but you're still going to suck. So, and he was like, "Oh, why are you going to be like that?" And I said, "Well, I'm just over here dropping truth bombs." But it is. It's the only thing that I think is missing over there is I'd like to see a real good sit-down restaurant. And that's just me being selfish.
I thought you were going to say a bank or a tire shop, and that was really behind you.
So if you could whip that up quick, that'd be great.
Well, part of that Sweet Shots will have that. There'll be food and beverage there. That'll be a restaurant type of thing. But it is missing that. It's missing the higher end, not even higher end, but just something there. I think it'll come. Look at all the hotels. It was slow. It was slow to catch up. So people invested some, like Tim Hortons used to be there.
Yeah.
It was just too soon. That's going to change. That's definitely going to change now. But I don't know. I couldn't even imagine 5 years ago some of the things that are coming were really unimaginable. So it's awesome to see that they're even being talked about.
We went to the Portland State football game to introduce the Air Schmidt era at the Alerus Center, and noticed that there were people parking over in the parking lot across the street, which is normally reserved for only when NDSU is here.
Oh, wow.
And so now that has grown to the point to where we can't just handle the parking inside the Alerus Center. We also have to go across the street. So it's a pretty exciting time to be living here. Yeah. It really is.
And you got BMX in there too. I mean, they're going to have another national here. It's the only national in the Dakotas or Montana. Minnesota usually gets one every year. So I'm for the investment the city had on just allowing them to use that land, and now we're going to help them build a building there. But they're getting national level events that brings 1,500 riders in. They had riders, I think the number was like 37 different states came.
That's crazy.
It was last, not this past summer, the one before. So again, right there on 42nd, again, more usage out of that corridor, that parking lot. They spill over into the Alerus Center parking lot. These events are spilling over there. It's great.
Yeah, your boy Wagle, hot on it.
Yeah, he's done a great job there. Yeah.
So what's your favorite thing you've done as mayor?
This is going to sound kind of lame. I'm a math nerd. People probably don't know that.
Well, you have a degree in economics.
I have an economics degree, and I was actually in the top 5% at the state math competition in St. Cloud, Minnesota, when I was in 8th grade and 9th and 10th grade. I was always at the top level there. So
how come that's not in your bio?
I don't know. It wasn't as cool for the chicks as a hockey player with a chiseled jaw. So I went there. Yeah.
That probably helped you more. Yeah.
So I'm a pretty big math nerd. So what I really am proud of, and I'm not trying to appease a certain audience, but we've in 5 years in a row with all the stuff that we have going on, we've reduced mills every single year for 5 straight years. And every single year, not only have we had a balanced budget, we've had a surplus budget, which has helped the city's reserve. So now we have a 3% cap. We're one of the few towns that said, bring it on. Great for our residents. They got $1,600 if they own a home, $1,600 extra dollars in their pocket. We'll live with the 3% because we're prepared to do it. So if I can get through and have 8 straight years of mill reductions, and 8 straight years of a surplus budget, I'm leaving it in great shape for the next person. I think that's about all you can do.
Yeah. Would you ever consider coming back? You haven't even left yet, and somebody's already asking you if you'd ever come. You don't plan on leaving, right?
I thought about that. So I thought about, maybe 8, 12 years going away. Like my daughter wants to go to the Air Force Academy. I want to be able to go on a week and go visit her. And my boys are going to be finishing up school. So I want to pour into them. I mean, I owe that to them. I owe that to myself to get to spend that time with them.
Right on.
I could see getting through, 8, 12 years and then looking at maybe doing it again, especially if somebody screws it up.
Well, if something gets you off the couch, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing. I mean, you weren't, I don't think on your bucket list, if I would have asked you prior to this experience that, you want to be mayor one day, you would have looked at me like, what in the actual, are you kidding me? No.
I want to argue with angry citizens every Monday night. That's my favorite thing to do. Yeah, please line that up for me. Yeah, write that one in my memoir.
Oh, shoot. Well, Mayor Bochenski, I appreciate you taking the time. You did this a little bit for me on short notice, which I also appreciate. Again, he accommodates us. I don't know if many people know that either. You value this stuff, and we're very thankful that you do. And thank you for appearing on the podcast. It's been my great pleasure, and we'll do it again before you put a lid on this portion of your career.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Someone's got to set the bar low for the lowest watched podcast on your show, so I'm glad I could be here to do that.
I love it, Pete. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah.